What's up, everybody? It's Friday afternoon. I'm pumped. It's another MTIP live broadcast coming at you hot from Miami, Florida. My name is Mike Maccabee. I'm your host, like always. I'm the CEO and founder of MTIP Commercial Real Estate. That's our brand. We are a commercial real estate brokerage firm. We have an online university. For those of you who don't know, MTIP University. MTIPU.com is where you can go and visit it. It's packed in with information, over 20, 30 hours worth of content that talks about business, commercial real estate in particular, and finance, the whole enchilada. Anything you want to learn about entrepreneurship, you can find it there. Every week we come live here from Florida to talk about a different subject matter associated to commercial real estate in particular, right? That's my free added value to all of you out there who care to listen and that pay attention to this, what I think is invaluable. And I hope that you guys enjoy. So, without further ado, I want to take today's hour or so. What's up, big time?
How's it going?
Good. To talk about a really, really, really critical part of sales, and in particular in commercial real estate or in real estate, which is called prospecting. Okay? The art of prospecting, and it is an art that you can learn and master with repetition. Okay? We're going to talk about a variety of things associated to prospecting, to sales, to even a little bit of negotiating, to the importance of role playing, etc., etc., etc. I know a lot of guys out there that are what we call natural born salespeople, and I know a lot of people that aren't. Most people probably aren't. They don't know how to persuade people. They don't know how to convince people. They don't realize that there's a strategy that a lot of these natural born salespeople have to begin with, which allow them to excel at the rapid pace that they do. So I'm going to try to unbox, right, to show you guys the light, the whole reasoning of how these people are so successful, because I'm one of them. And I don't mean to sound cocky, but I am a natural born salesperson. I know exactly what's required. No matter what business you throw me into, most likely I will pick up on what that product and service is quickly. And it's pretty much the same form of negotiating or prospecting, no matter what the industry is. I am going to be talking about real estate and commercial real estate in specific today, but I want you guys all to know that the things you guys are going to hear and learn about really can apply in any business. Okay? It's very, very similar. Okay, so first on the list, what does prospecting mean? What is a prospect? What's the notion of this, right? So a prospect, or what we call eventually a client or a customer, is what we're trying to lead them to, is someone that is prospectively interested, okay, in the product or service you're trying to solicit. Okay, in our case, it's commercial real estate. For my business, for our firm in particular, we focus on off-market sellers nationwide, commercial real estate owners, and that's who we target. So the first step of understanding who your prospect is you got to do a little research and understand what your business is, and then strategize, and you got to write this down, right? I cover this in our university, but I'm going to share it with you as well. You have to write things down. You have to have 10, 15, 20 steps written down of who you're going to go after, where you're going to go after them, why are you going after them, what you're going to say, and then eventually execute off that, okay? So we're doing off-market sellers. We're going to cover that as our example as far as a prospective seller, prospect. And that's basically what a prospect is. Your whole goal is to take someone that wasn't necessarily even interested. Here's where the skill comes in, right? And persuade them, engage them in a way to bring them on board, to hear what you have to say, and to hopefully show them in a systematic and a logical way that you can solve their problem. That's it. That is all you're supposed to do in the beginning basis of sales. Whether you do that in person, face to face, you do it on a camera, on Facebook, whatever. You do it over the phone. You do it in any type of format, right, and retail, you have to always come at it with understanding the psychology of who your customer is, who that prospect is, what is their problem, and how you can solve it. If you understand that basic rudimentary elements of sales, which is what I call it, you'll be able to convince anyone to pretty much do anything. So that's the basis. So that's what a prospect is. Okay, what we call lead, prospect. I want to talk about confidence. Okay, confidence is something that also could be nurtured, and it's a lot of people just naturally have it, and those of us that don't, I can tell you, confidence comes from practice, from experience, and from insight and knowledge. So, perfect example is, I don't know anything about, women's shoes, okay? So I'm not a confident person when it comes to that subject matter. But I bet you $1 million cash right now that if you stuck me in a retail store selling women's shoes, my confidence would overpower my knowledge. And I would be able to convince, bullshit my way, quote unquote, to get a sale because I'm a naturally confident person. So don't get the two things confused. A lot of you guys out there say, well, if I knew more about my subject, my product, or my service, then I would feel more confident. That's complete bullshit. Confidence doesn't come necessarily just from insight. It helps. Definitely helps to know more about what you're talking about. But that's not the key ingredient. Confidence comes within. Okay? You have to understand that you are the component that makes that sale happen. If you don't have self-belief and you cannot have any doubt in yourself, if you have a quiver of doubt, you will guaranteed fail. You have to believe in yourself. Now, how do you believe in yourself? Hopefully, you guys had a great upbringing. You know, you had love. What I always say is, love is the strongest solution to build confidence. If your mom and dad gave it to you, you're blessed. But also sometimes hard love is just as significant as gushy-mushy love that you get as a kid. I got both. I got lovey-dovey and I also got hard love. And as a result, I became confident. The second thing about confidence is you have to be comfortable with failure. Okay? A lot of you guys are scared to fail. Failure is an ingredient. It's a part of your success. Everyone's success. I've yet to meet a person in this entire world that has not failed along their journey to success for any business or for anything, period, at all. So you got to be comfortable with failing. Fail often. Failure is a good thing. It means you're trying. It means you're progressing. The worst thing you can do is do nothing. Okay? So if you want to build confidence, love yourself. Okay? Number 2, don't be scared to fail. The worst case scenario of something happening to you is nothing. Okay? I have risked a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources in businesses, and they failed. And I sleep comfortably at night knowing that I have the capacity, I have the self-belief and conviction that I can get up out of bed and start fresh and do it all over again. You can reinvent yourself at any given moment in your life. If you're 15 years old, 40 years old, or even 60, 70. There are no rules to this game, this life. Okay? So confidence, really, really important to have it if you want to get into the sales game. Next thing, consistency. Okay? Consistency is something you guys forget about. A lot of people start very enthusiastically on an endeavor. You start it, and then full gas, you go forward, and then you run out of gas at some point, not too far in the distant future. And that's where a lot of people fail, get discouraged, and quit. Okay? So the differentiator between that successful person and the failure that quits is their ability to stay consistent. They have persistence. They have diligence inscribed in their nature. Whether that came from their upbringing, just experiencing life, or maybe just hearing it off this phone, this camera, you guys need to have consistency in what it is that you guys are doing, or you will not see success. Okay? It's a huge part of the sales cycle, and I can't emphasize this enough. Key. The next thing I want to talk about quickly is the concept of follow through and follow up. Sales will not consummate without follow through and follow up. Okay? Every person you meet in life, okay? Hi, my name is Mike Maccabee. How are you? Good. Here's my card. Here's your card. Great. That's an introduction. Good job. You master that. It's called opening. Okay? Once you get good at introducing yourself and saying that little pitch, guess what? You got to meet the person again. And again. And again until eventually you close that sales cycle. That process is called follow up, and that it's follow through. Following through with that cycle is essential to closing a deal. Okay? A lot of you guys might say, all right, Mike, we know all this shit. What's new? Let me tell you what's new. You might know of it, but you're not executing, which is the next thing. You gotta be a doer in sales. You wanna make money, you wanna go from $5,000 a month to $7,000 a month to 10 to 15 to 20 to God knows how many. You gotta be a doer. You gotta have courage. Okay? Doers are courageous. Failures, what I call failures, not the guys that tried and gave it their all and failed. Those aren't failures to me. The failures are the ones that don't do. The talkers, the barkers, the wannabe doers. The ones that say, I can do, but nonsense. Okay? Be a doer. You want to make money in this world? You got to do. You got to execute. Okay? Courage, execution, consistency, confidence. These are prerequisites if you want to get into sales, and especially if you want to start prospecting for deals. You don't have these components, these essential necessities, don't pick up the phone. Don't go out there and work retail. Don't do anything associated to sales because you're doomed to fail. Okay? So now that I've covered that essential framework of what the topic of discussion is, which is prospecting and negotiating, and you guys understand that, I can proceed. All right? How much time do we got for this section?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. So for those of you guys following me on Instagram, thank you for following and for the support. I appreciate your comments, your questions. I know a lot of you guys reach out to me after these broadcasts, ask me questions. I got a couple guys back here. What I want to start doing is maybe if there's availability, let's start answering questions along the way if there's any that come up. Feel free to ask me questions. I'm going to try to engage and answer some of the questions if they do come up. And I highly recommend that you guys try to push that right here as I'm speaking. Okay. Last little thing before we start. You guys need to understand the difference between opening and closing. Okay? Opening is an introduction. I know a lot, I would say most salespeople are very good openers. They're very good at saying, hi, my name's Mike. What's your name? And that's pretty much where it dies out. Closing, okay, is a very sophisticated psychology of getting to a point where you're convincing someone to actually do what it is that you set out to do in the beginning. And a lot of people don't know how to do that, okay? Some of the people I know that are closers, they're very weak openers. They don't know how to say hi to someone, but they know how to convince them to take that step and execute on what it is that they're trying to do. But they need some assistance to get someone in the door. Most likely, more times than the other, the guy that's a very good closer is probably a phenomenal opener because he worked his way. You got to start at being very good at opening to get to a point where you learn how to close. It's a gradual, time-consuming grind to get to that stage, that elevated stage where you anticipate, you can see all the angles because you understand the strategy to lead that prospect to a close and to a final sale. So when I was younger and when I first started in real estate, right, in sales, I really didn't know what I was doing or saying. Nobody guided me. Nobody told me, this is right, kid, that's wrong. I kind of just winged it until I figured it out. Now, for those of you guys who are watching this, you guys have a huge benefit in what I'm about to share. Not only am I going to tell you what to exactly say, how to say it, and how to do it, but you'll understand the very crucial, critical lesson that took me a long time to learn, which is how important scripts are. Writing things down and actually memorizing or understanding the psychology of a script. Now, what is a script? A script, like you would think of a movie, right, is something you write down. It's a dialogue. And it helps guide you from a beginning of a script to a middle to the end in a very structured, formatted way that can help lead you to a close. Okay? Every great salesperson has a built-in natural script. No matter what business he jumps into, he could pick up on it really quick. There's a beginning, there's an introduction. There is a middle, which is what we call intelligence gathering, which I probably stole from The Wolf of Wall Street. He says it in his book. Great book, by the way. For those of you guys who are salespeople, want to learn about prospecting, go buy, what's that guy's name? Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan Belfort's book, Straight Line System. Very good book. Does a very good job teaching sales. And I read the book a few times. Highly recommend it. It's good. And it's exactly what I always knew. I just never articulated, all right? Now, I'm not claiming to be Jordan Belfort, nor am I claiming to be some guru on sales, but I've done very well and I'm very good at it, okay? So take my advice. He wrote it there. I'm telling you, I never believed in scripts. Today, I'm telling you, it's an invaluable tool, especially if you're managing a team or a group of people, okay? You want to be able to exactly articulate how to do something. You got to put it in writing. All right? So, another example to this. What's up, Bradley? Mr. Rhino, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. You're a gentleman. I hope you take some insight from this too. Bradley, by the way, the owner of Lightspeed TV, VT, which is a educational platform virtual terminal for businesses like myself. I got MTIP University proudly harbored on his platform. So big shout out to you. Thank you so much for everything you do. You're an amazing guy and I appreciate you and I hope more people look into it. You can go to lightspeedvt.com to learn more about his business. It's amazing. He's also an amazing talent in sales. He's got a master brain. He's got a course he talks about sales. You should follow that too. What I'm telling you guys today, it's just some basic stuff that I picked up on in my life that a lot of you guys asked me for, and I thought I'd just share it. So, the importance of a script, okay? It's like a good movie. How do you differentiate a shitty movie to a really good movie? When an actor first gets a script, right? I'm Brad Pitt, or maybe Brad Lee, okay? I get a script and I read through it. And if it's shit, guess what? I throw it out the window. I'm not going to do the part. Okay, because it's not convincing, it's not good, it wasn't written well. Same thing with sales and a cycle and a business. I'm going to share with you guys our exact script verbatim. I'm going to offer it to you all, to the public for free. Okay? But I want you guys to know it took me 4.5, maybe 5 weeks with a group of 8 people to write this very, very basic script to give it to you as an added value for free here. Okay? That's how much time, trial and error, thought went behind this particular script. So don't half-ass script writing. It's a very crucial, critical thing. Jordan Belfort says he can do it in 30 minutes in a room. You sit down, he can make a script. I potentially today, after going through this experience several times now, I think I can write a script within an hour as well or less. But don't take it for granted. It's a talent, it's a skill, it's something that you should learn and you can learn to get really good at. And it's the difference between your success and failure in your sales cycle, okay, in your pitch. So hopefully you guys all understand the importance of a script. Now, the rudimentary thing people forget is they go on tangents in these scripts, right, in your dialogues. A lot of people, when they're starting to read off a script, they either sound like robots. Hello, my name is Mike. What are you doing today? Blah, 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 blah. You sound like a doofus, okay? You're super unnatural. Or you're very zealous, you're very, like I'm a loud-spoken person. Some of you guys might get ear infections from listening to me, I'm so loud. And then there's some soft-spoken people like, hello, my name is Mike. I'm from South Korea, and I'd like to speak like this. Everybody's different, okay? But that doesn't mean you're a success or failure because your voice is at a different tone. I will tell you one universal thing though, when it comes to tonality, which is a very critical part of selling. If you don't have a clear, energetic pitch and sound to your tone of your voice, nobody's gonna buy shit from you. Okay? Let me repeat that. You can sound extremely loud and zealous and crazy and fun, or you can be very soft-spoken but extremely excited with what you say, with the intensity of how you say it. You can sound really convincing if you know how to emphasize certain words at certain points in that script. And that's something a lot of you guys skip, and that's why you get hung up on, or the guy just walks away. Okay? The other thing you guys need to realize is your approach, your mentality. If you walk into a meeting, a phone call, this session that we're doing here, with the idea or a doubt in your mind that you're going to fail, right? It's going to project into your voice. If you're scared, you're not going to win the business. You have to go back to what I said, courage. The confidence is what's going to project into your voice and your tonality when you speak. Okay? That is critical, guys. So, I think I covered enough about the psychology, the tonality, how to say it, the importance of it, the framework, what I call it. I want to now dive into our script. I know a lot of you guys want this script, okay? This is what I call the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme of scripts. It's our MTIP, Seller Qualifying Script 5.0, because we've been through 5 versions of it to date. And I'm very excited to share it with you, all right? So if you're paying attention to the big screen, I'm going to cover it through this presentation. So I'm definitely going to go over the script towards the end of this presentation. That's just basically line formatted. But I want to dive into each segment of the script first, okay? So we are qualifying, again, off-market sellers, commercial grade sellers all across the country. And so that's our prospect. We use real estate agents, okay? Salespeople, licensed salespeople are the ones calling to basically prospect our leads. They find us deals, okay, all over the country. What we call an agent is the sales rep. So in the beginning, there's a few different scenarios that could happen when you're starting off a phone conversation, right? And this is not face-to-face. This is over the phone in this particular example for the script that we created. So depending on the scenario, whether you do retail sales, over-the-phone sales, email sales, which really goes back to script, whatever your format of communication is, understand that there's going to be tweaking needed. For us, in this example, we're talking about phone sales. So I always start off with, hey, I'm looking for John Smith or John. I usually like saying their first name to make it sound informal, okay? If it sounds like I don't know you, guess what? The gates of borders go up. People get scared and they get hesitant to want to continue talking to you, especially if you're talking to a secretary or what we call a gatekeeper, someone preventing you from getting to the decision maker. Okay, so be informal, say, hey, looking for John. Don't ask it, command it. Say it with the tone that you're stating something. Big difference. Hi, is John there? Or, hi, give me John. Or where's John? It sounds like I'm telling someone what to do rather than asking them. And that's going to stay consistent throughout my entire tonality or pitch. Another version of it is maybe you don't have their name, all right? A lot of you guys are calling blind lists. You got phone numbers. You don't know who you're calling. You just know the address of the property and you got a number, okay? Maybe the owner is an LLC and you couldn't find who the owner is. First thing I say is, the guy says, hello? Yeah, hi, who am I talking to? Who am I speaking with? Okay, with confidence. They're like, who's this? This is John. Who's this? Which brings me to another point. Don't ever be scared or hesitant to re-ask the same question multiple times. Okay? It's almost like a chess game. People they crack. They don't know how to respond when you ask the same question in repetition. But you got to do it quickly, with confidence, and with finesse. So again, for example, someone says, hello. I say, yeah, who am I speaking to? And they're being a dick. Who's this? I say, Mike. Who's this? They have no choice but to answer you. Or they'll say, Mike who? Mike with MTIP. Who's this? Third time, they crack. This is John. You got the name. And that was success level number 1 because you didn't have their name. Okay? So that was just a quick little trick of an introduction. You want to be more polite? You can say, who do I have the privilege, okay, of speaking to? That's a more, I would say, American way of saying things, right? I'm Israeli. I'm a little more aggressive. I'll be straight to your face. I like direct. I also think it sounds informal, and people, especially that aren't naturally inclined to talk, they're going to fold. And then I'm teeing off in golf the momentum to the entire conversation based on my tone. If you start a conversation weak, guess what? Most likely, the rest of the call, which will probably be very short, will be weak. If you start strong, it'll stay strong, okay? So the momentum is built right on this first call. Another way of saying it is, hi John, how are you today? Okay, that's another informal way to introduce yourself. It breaks the pattern. You don't sound like a weirdo. It almost sounds like you're friends for 20 years. And he'll be like, I'm okay, good. How can I help? Who's this? They'll be less, it's less invasive. They'll be less hesitant to actually want to talk to you. Okay, so it's a good thing. So these are questions to ask right after they said hello, okay? Questions that you want to ask right after they say hello, you introduce yourself, or they introduce themselves. Am I catching you at a good time, John? Do you have a moment to chat, John? When is a good time to reach out to John if you're talking to a secretary? What day and time is good for you to chat? I can call back. Those are all great immediate follow-ups, whether they're there and available or they sound distracted and not. You want to ask this common courteous question because, again, you came in hot, who are you, to being courteous. It's like a balance between hot and cold, especially when you're talking to a property owner or seller. You want to at the same time build rapport. Super important, okay? In sales, to build an emotional connection, which I didn't really touch on in the beginning, but I'm telling you now, you got to build an emotional connection in the way you speak. Okay, so after you confirm who they are, right, you need to go straight into the introduction pitch, what I call the intro pitch. You say, okay, great, thank you so very much. My name is Mike Maccabee. I'm actually calling you with a company called MTIP Commercial Real Estate. And I'm calling you regarding an offer we sent you, okay, for your property located at 555 Bullshit Street. That was my intro, short and sweet. That's one way of doing it. And that's what most people will tell you to do, and that's probably what I teach people to do. Or if you become really good at your introductions, I'll just go straight this, hey John, are you the owner of that building on 555 Butler Street? Yes, great. Are you interested in selling your property? I'll jump right into it. First question, direct. Again, trial and error. Some people do it cordially like this. Me personally, I'll go on tangents. Sometimes I won't even start with any questions or even introduce myself outside of giving my first name. I'll start be like, how's your day? What's the weather like? What are you up to? Randomly, I might do these things just to catch the person off guard, to not make them feel like it's just another typical cold call or sales call, okay? And it works. It works every single time. I've had twerps in my office come and go through the history of my business that have challenged me. Oh, Mike, when I make a phone call, I don't get a hold of the owner, or they always are dicks to me, or they don't want to talk to me. I'm like, yeah, because you probably are doing something that I didn't teach you to do, or you're not doing it the way I taught you to do it. So the big difference is, don't sound like a robot, build an emotional connection, and just be you. And follow the damn script. And I guarantee you'll get past that first step. We're going to jump into the next question we ask, all right? Right after that, we're going to ask them a very direct question. It's probably, if you can create a hierarchy of questions, right? We got about 40 questions in our script. We're going to put the most important, pertinent questions at the forefront, in the beginning. Okay? And based on that, you can branch off and go on to different angles. The first question we ask, that's probably the most critical one, is whether and we're going to talk about if someone calls you back, if you guys are calling out calls, or if someone calls you back and it's an inbound call. We're going to talk about the difference about that and what to say. But I'm going to start off by saying you called them, they picked up, you got over the intro, and now you ask them that first question, which is, are you interested in selling your property or properties? Okay? Or another way of saying that is, would you be interested in receiving a fair offer, fair market offer, or great fair offer on your property? Okay, little tongue twister there. But those are two ways to ask the same question. That's another critical thing you guys have to remember. If you're stuck asking them the same question, and they're good, man, they get cold called all the time, and they keep giving you the same answer, guess what? Just like Einstein said, you got to change your strategy to get a different result, right? Insanity. You got to change the question, frame it. Ooh, super important. Framing means you are structuring where the conversation is going. You got to get good at framing. And that comes back down to how you write out these scripts. So when you frame the question correctly, you're going to get a different response, guaranteed, most likely, which will take you to a different tangent to follow through from there. So based on that, you ask them a yes or no question. You interested in selling? They're going to say no. They're going to say yes. Okay? The quick response for the no is, okay, if you're not interested, all right, why'd you call us back? Or why'd you call me on my sign? Or why'd you inquire to begin with? Maybe they did. I don't know how you guys are marketing. Okay, we reach out to people, they call us back. We generate inbound leads. That's the business model we follow. Okay? So we say, why are you calling us back? Did you want the offer? What prompted your call? Okay, to begin with. And then if that's not the case, if it's us just going outward towards them, I'm going to ask them something like, let me ask you, John, before I let you go, is there a number that may excite you or that might motivate you to reconsider your decision right now? What's that magic number, John? Come on, I know you got that number. Give me a number. Throw anything. Give me a ballpark. What you want to do, I always say this about marketing. It's not about what you say. It's about how you say it. The point is to get them to react. You want them to react. This is a follow-up to a no, to a decline. I'm asking them the same question in a different way, and I'm trying to gear them on an emotional level to react to my question. Okay? Now, they can say yes or no. Again, I'm going to go on a negative route. If they say no, again, okay, great. Thank you for your time. I might even say, would you feel comfortable with me following up in 2 months? You sound like a great guy. I think you might be able to reconsider down the line. Let me stay in touch with you. What's your email address? What's your whatever? And get that build relationship. Or you can flip it, okay? A lot of you guys forget to do this. Every seller is what? Is also a buyer. It's either someone's a seller or a buyer, depending on the mood of the season. That's what people are at. Either people have liquidity, they want to buy some shit, or their shit's stuck in some building and they want to sell it to get that liquidity. It's like this limbo. Okay, so what you can ask them is, hey, John, right before I let you go, tell me, just out of curiosity, are you interested in buying anything? Are you in the market to buy? Well, I'll tell you the truth. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sell anything right now, but yeah, what do you have for sale? Listen, I speak to owners just like you all day long. That's my profession. Why don't you give me your email or your cell phone and I can text or email you some of the off-market deals that come available? Great. Then guess what happens? There's going to be another script, which today we're not going to talk about, that's very similar to this. That's going to be a buyer qualifying script. And then you start asking a bunch of questions that are buyer oriented. Like, are you liquid? Would you buy cash or do you need to get a loan? How soon would you be interested? What type of property are you interested in? Where are you interested in? Blah, 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 blah. And it's basically a requirement list that you're just filtering through. Okay? So it's either that or thank you, have a great day, goodbye, and you move on. You don't want to spend too much time with someone that's not interested. Now, here's another thing you guys need to recognize. A lot of you guys think when someone says no, that means that's it. It's no forever. No. Rejection is like the pedigree of any sales cycle. Anticipate being rejected all the time, most of the time, and many times over until you get to a yes. Okay? They say in marketing or in sales, it takes 10 no's to get to a yes. A lot of people don't even get to the second or third rejection and they never talk to that person again, which goes back to follow up and follow through. Just because someone said no right now doesn't mean they're not interested. I repeat, just because someone said no right now doesn't mean they're not interested. It just means they're not interested right now for whatever given reason. And it's your job as the salesperson to revisit that person at a future time, in a future date and time, so that you can ask them the question again. Hey, just touching base. Maybe today, would you like to see an offer? Maybe you need the money. Maybe your wife left you in a divorce, left you with no money. Maybe someone died in the family. Maybe your business partner screwed you and head to Reno with your wife. God knows what happened, but maybe you need that money. Okay? So revisiting is crucial, critical. Remember, not interested, you got to hit them up again in the future. So now you know the no, we went the negative route, and that's what happened. If a client is calling you back, okay, this is the blind list. A lot of you guys will send out mailers, whatever means of marketing you have, and you don't know who's calling you back, right? So this is for those of you guys out there, you wholesalers, whatever you call yourselves, that are trying to flip deals, for example, and you send out a bunch of direct mail, and then you're going to get phone calls coming in. So you don't necessarily know who's calling you. So the first thing you want to do is, okay, hi John, very nice to hear from you. Oh, you received the letter, you received the postcard, great. What property or APN or parcel number are you calling about? Okay? And you ask for APN or parcel number if it's a piece of vacant land and the city doesn't necessarily have a plot to it, all right? And then you ask, what type of property is this? Okay? And for those of you guys who are doing direct mail, you never want to be the salesperson answering the phone. You always want, in my opinion, to have a gatekeeper on your end too. A virtual assistant, someone that just answers the phone. That's going to be the person, first of all, it builds the prestige of your company. And second of all, it's basically a data collector because you don't have that initial information to actually engage them in a intellectual conversation about their asset. So make sure you do that. And that's, again, these are for people calling back when it's a blind list. So, okay, great. How are we looking on time? Okay, good. So the next step, right? You got them. They said, yes, I'm interested. By the way, I don't think we covered that, now that I think about it. Sorry, good. One step before that. If they say, yes, I'm interested in your offer. I'm interested in whatever it is you're soliciting. In our case, it's an offer to purchase their property. What do you say next? The next immediate question is, great, John. Do you have a price in mind? Or is there a number that excites you? Okay? And this is going to help the closer, the person trying to negotiate the close. If you do a good job opening and you could get the psychology of the seller or of the prospect at the beginning of the call, right? You know now they're interested in what it is that you're pitching them. And you know what they want for it. Let me tell you, those two things are like super duper important in commercial real estate or in the sales cycle here when you're trying to buy a building, okay? It's the benchmark. It's where you guys start to duke it out. You want 5 million? I'll give you 4. 4 is not good? I'll give you 4.5. Ba, 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 ba. It's the pedigree to start negotiating. If you don't have a foundation to go by, you can't really continue the conversation. It's hard. Now, I'm very good, and we're going to talk about how to create a framework to progress beyond this question in the event that they don't answer it favorably, right? If they say no, then they say something like, no, I don't have a price. You're the one that reached out to me. What are you willing to pay me? Okay? And then you can say something like, listen, John, I appreciate that. My client, because I'm a broker, right? Or my partners, if I'm an investor, actually were the ones that asked me to reach out to you to share an initial conversation. That's what I'm trying to do here. I just want to make sure that before we waste your time or mine, that you are interested, right, to sell your asset. And look, it's fair game. I don't want to throw you a random ass offer. I want to make sure it's the right offer the first time. And so out of courtesy, I've reached out to you to ask you, do you have a price? And that way you kind of dodged and redirect. That's what sales is. A good salesperson will block, redirect, and strike back with the counterpunch. And you'll do it effectively. And this takes practice. You got to do it repetitively and you get really good at it. Okay? So that's if they don't have a price in mind. That's something like that. You can say that. If they said yes, then the owner is going to give you a firm price. I want 5 million. I want $1 million, not a penny less. Don't waste my fucking time. Okay. The next question you ask, which is super smart. No problem. You don't even contest their price. Even if it's an inflated number and you know that market really well and you know the product really well, you say, listen, John, just out of curiosity, always act dumb. It's the best remedy. How'd you come up with that number? What's the basis to how you derived at it? And now what you're doing is you're putting him in the or her in the hot seat, hot box, for them to explain themselves to you. And now you sound like you have the edge, right? Why? Because since the beginning of the hello till this very point that we got to, it's you are asking them. You're on the offensive. You're on the attack. You're not in the defense. Notice that throughout this analogy, in this dialogue, in the script, the guy's not really asking me questions. And if he does ask me a question, I'm going to what? I'm going to block, redirect, strike right back with the counter punch. Something's going to be ready, a rebuttal. And you got to learn your rebuttals. We're going to cover that. There's rebuttals, okay? Jordan Belfort, not to go on a tangent, but Jordan Belfort said that when he was doing sales in his boiler room, they were failing in the beginning, right? Because they didn't know what to say to the client's questions or frustrations, what we call, they didn't have any rebuttals. So he gathered his sales team into a room and said, guys, I want to understand why you guys are all failing. What's the problem? Okay? Is it the color of your shirt, your tie, the way, what is it? What is it? Let's figure it out. What are these guys asking you that you don't know what to say to? So they're all scratching like, listen, there's a million zillion examples as to why these guys won't buy or sell. So he said, you know what? Here's a board. Let's write them all on the wall. You, what's your problem? So all in all, I don't think it took an hour from what the story was, and which, by the way, it's so funny. When I watched this movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, The Wolf of Wall Street, I actually implemented this thing in my sales room, and I saw, frighteningly enough, it was the exact same result, which was this. After about a half an hour of asking everybody, you notice that the same questions or issues started to come about. Like, I got to go talk to my partner, or I'm not ready, or I don't know what to buy if I sold, or what am I going to do about the taxes? So these very critical questions, right? But everybody had the same issues, and they started to like exhaust themselves. They were like, They looked at the wall. We thought we had hundreds of problems. In the end, it was like 10, 15, maybe 20 critical issues that we put on the wall. And I literally sat there for 3 hours and I wrote a rebuttal for every single problem. And guess what? Now it's part of the script and what we call the segment of rebuttals. And if now the next time you study those rebuttals, you memorize it, you engrave it in your fucking brain like a tattoo. And once you get it, you're like ready, right? It's like you were primed. What do you got, seller? You got a question for me? I'm ready to fucking duke it out with you. And it's a combination of your confidence and you're understanding that there's no more than 20 questions you probably are going to ask me, and I'm fucking real greased. I know exactly what to tell you. That's how profoundly ready I am for you. Okay? So I'm going to emphasize that. Really, really important. Know your rebuttals. Understand. There's not a cajillion reasons why someone doesn't want to buy or sell. It's the same shit, and most likely, even if you're in a different industry, it's probably the same reasons. Okay? People aren't that sophisticated. Most people are pretty dumb. Even the ones with money. Okay? Their brain doesn't go that far. This next segment in our script, in our script cycle, which is what happens once they say, the owner of the building says, yes, I want to sell. They gave you a price, or you passed that question. What comes next? The next question that we ask after they answer, or maybe choose not to answer, but preferably answer the question, is there any income being generated on your property? Okay? We are a commercial real estate brokerage, right? I'm not looking to buy a house to live in it. We're looking for an opportunity to either cash flow. The ideal scenario is a building is making money, it's generating income, or it has the potential to after some tweaks to the asset. So even if it's a piece of land, we are going to ask this question. It's a great round 2 question. It's second on our list is there any income being generated? Okay? And what is your NOI? What's the income, the net operating income to be specific? So they're going to either answer you yes or no. And notice, that's a trend. I'm asking them very direct questions and anticipating a very direct output answer. So if they say no, there's no income, it's a vacant land, it's prime for development opportunity, then I'll tell you what we do next. Or they can say, I'm not interested in sharing any more information about my financial situation on my property. You're a stranger. If and when I feel comfortable enough along this journey with you, at the right or appropriate time, I'll give you the income. Or, I don't know because I'm so fucking rich, I don't remember how much that property is making, all right? Which could be an answer too, they might say. So in that case, you say, and I love starting off saying, I can appreciate that, John, but here's the thing. My client or my partners want to make the right offer the first time around. And in order for us to do so, we need you to help guide us to the price that you're willing to consider. And also, so that we can properly underwrite your asset and make sure it justifies for us on our end. Okay, that's one way of saying it. Great, great, great rebuttal. Or you can say, we need the same way, I can appreciate that. We need some indication of what your general income is, or you can ask them, what can be the potential income? Okay, in the neighborhood. What's a lot like yours leasing for? Okay, so that we can try to formulate a cap rate or a cash-on-cash analysis on a pro forma, on a projected basis, so that we can guesstimate a value for your building and then offer you based on that. Okay, great, great questions, great rebuttals to it. And that's if they say no in any format, whether they don't want to give it or they don't have it. If they say yes, the property is producing income, they're probably going to give you a straight answer. It's making $10,000 a month. It's making $120,000 a year. Okay? And from that point, you want to talk about whether or not, and you're going to get into it when we talk about tenants, if that's gross, if that's net. So because we channeled into the income, the cash flow of the property, we now have a leeway, right? That was the leading question, to dive into all these micro questions associated to the income. For example, you can ask about the tenants. Okay, great. So you're making $10,000 a month. Tell me, John, how many tenants do you have? How many units are there? If it's multifamily, if it's a hotel, if it's an industrial park, okay? What is the monthly gross rent? Or you can ask the money, the amount that he gave you, you can ask if it's gross or net, which means if it's before or after expenses. Okay, who pays for taxes, for example? You can also try to get the tenant roll right off this question too. Like, how much does each tenant pay you out of that 10,000? You said you got 10 tenants, right? Or 10 units. How much is the average rent if you want to jump to it? Or if you want to give them, say, listen, do you know the exact rents? Okay, you can ask that. And it's critical. The more infiltrative you become with these owners, the better the value you can stir up. And tomorrow when you end up talking to a bank, it's good that you have this information because you know it's coming directly from the source, the owner, and you jot all this stuff down in your notes. Okay? You want to ask what their lease terms are, meaning how long the leases are for. Month to month, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Okay? You want to ask them maybe the opposite. How many years left on their leases? So 2 ways to ask the same question. You want to ask if the tenants have an option to extend their leases, meaning if they have a 1 year term and they have an exercised option to push for another year or another 4 years, whatever it is, that they pre-negotiated at the beginning of their lease term. Okay, these are great critical questions about the tenants. You can ask about the tenant names or the type of businesses. That's another great series of questions. Okay, so as far as when you're talking about the lease or leases, okay, they can say, yeah, I got 2 tenants, or they have 2 more years, or they're at a month to month. The owner could rebuttal with those types of answers. Or the owner could say, I occupy it, right? I have no tenants. There is no income because I actually operate my business out of it. Or I live in the property if you're in residential. Okay? And that's a question to ask them. If they operate a business out of the property, you go on a tangent with your line of questioning because all the income related questions and all the tenancy related questions don't really apply. So this is an outlier for those scenarios. Okay, you can ask questions as follows. You can ask a question like, great, so what do you do there? John, what's your business? How long have you been there? When it comes to selling, are you willing to separate the sale of your business from the sale of your piece of real estate, right? Or do you want to see a number for both? And if that's that case, how much money are you bringing in the business? How much inventory in a dollar amount are you currently holding or giving or holding at any given moment? And if those of you guys who never sold a business or you don't know how to sell a business, I wouldn't get into it, but you can ask investment banker or broker to get involved at that point, and you can actually tee off and maybe get a referral to try to help sell his business or relocate his business while you, which is your focus, is buy the real estate, okay? How much do you want for your business? How much do you want for the real estate? Would you separate, or does it have to be together in order for you to actually execute on that deal? Great questions for owner-occupied properties, for businesses that have been there, especially for old-timers, been there for a long time, okay? So as far as rental increases, right? You want to ask them, are there rental increases attached to these people's leases? Do you normally escalate the rents? How frequent do you do it, right? And they might say 2%, 5%, 10%, a dollar amount. They'll say, yeah, it goes up $500 a year, okay? You have to ask that question and you got to get it all the way through. Or they might say something like, no, listen, the rents are underneath market. I haven't raised the rents because, I know these people, they're nice people, they don't cause any problems, and that's a great upside for you as the buyer, right? If the rent is $800 a month for a unit, and the average rent today is $1,200, then you have a ton of upside and opportunity. So great question to ask. As far as rental increases, you want to ask if there's any vacancy, okay? This is a part of credit loss and vacancy. You want to ask how many units are available, if there's any availability, how often there's something vacant, okay, and why it's vacant, okay? They can say, yeah, I got 2 units vacant, or I got 5% vacancy. They'll give it to you in a percentage, a dollar amount, or amount of units, one of the two, or square footage. Or they can say, no, I'm 100% fully leased because I occupy the entire thing, or I have tenants if it's fully occupied. So vacancy, critical question, you want to ask that question. Okay, I just mentioned this a second ago, I'll recap it. You want to ask them if they feel like the property is generating the appropriate income for the current given market, okay? Is the rent, the $10,000 you're collecting from these tenants, is that what the market could bear today? Are you overcharging? Which is great if you are and you're sustaining it. Are you at market or are you below market? You want to realize that because that's going to go into consideration when you're evaluating and underwriting your deal. Okay? So these were questions about tenancy, about income, critical stuff. We're going to push forward into property expenses. And so we got all of the income related stuff. You want to also ask them stuff about the expenses associated to the property. Okay? So here's some questions. You want to ask them generically, what are your operating expenses on the property as a whole, annually? You'll say $50,000. Okay, what does that comprise of? How much are you paying in property tax? How much are you paying in property insurance premiums? Who pays for the utilities, you or the tenants? How much are these utilities? Electric, water, gas, okay, trash, maintenance, HOA for resi people. Do you pay a property manager? How much do you pay the property manager? Okay. You also want to ask a rhetorically stupid question just to gauge their intelligence, something like that they should know. Tell me, what's the actual square footage? We okay on that? What's the actual square footage of the lot and building? Just to see their knowledge base. And then you want to ask them something again rhetorical, like, tell me, John, how long have you owned the property? Now, mind you, those of you guys who are in the business, you probably have a property profile sheet. You have something that tells you all this stuff, right? The square footage, the zoning, when they bought it, how much they bought it for, their debt. But you're testing them and their knowledge, or you're testing to see if they're lying to you, right? You see 5,000 square feet on the county record, and they tell you it's 7. And that's when you say, that's weird. John, I'm looking on title, and it says it's 5,000 feet. You're saying 7. Where's the discrepancy coming from? Oh, well, we built that side building here unpermitted. And you caught him, and then you can have a conversation for a moment about that, and that becomes ammunition that you harnessed and you holster for the future that you can hit them with. And again, these are just strategies, closing strategies, negotiating strategies. But if you don't gather intellectual information in the course of your qualifying aspect of this prospecting, you won't have that ammunition, okay? So, great question. Another great question, which is more of a conversational question, is, tell me, John, what in your opinion is the best use for this property if we were to buy it from you, okay? Or how about, have you ever attempted, John, to actually change the use of the property? Take it from industrial zone to retail, or to office, or to multifamily, or build something on a vacant piece of land. Okay? Have you ever tried to get entitlements, permits? These are questions you can ask. Great questions to get feedback from the owner. So the owner can say answers like, listen, the property is a multifamily property. It's an investment income producing property. That's what it is. That's probably what it's going to stay. You can probably enjoy the cash flow. I'm selling it as a very clear-cut deal. The rents are a little low. You can raise them. That's what it is. That's where it ends. Another guy could say, listen, yeah, me and my brother went 4 years ago to the city and they told me, you can build a skyscraper here. Okay? And that maybe might constitute why they're asking for a higher price based on what you could potentially use. So price, when someone's asking for a ridiculous amount of money, obviously most people will try to, and our job as buyers is to try to negotiate them down to the least amount, but you should also understand why. Okay, if you're not familiar with the market, if you're just going into a market, then know that that's a possibility. It could be it's because that particular site is located by another critical site that's being constructed, and the property value is about to explode and go up compared to the other ones down the street or 4 blocks over. Real estate is about location and circumstance. So pay attention to that and ask these questions. Okay? So when we talk about development, have you guys ever tried to develop it? And they say yes or no. The next follow-up question to that question is, in commercial real estate, is have you ever done any kind of land surveys? Okay, something called an environmental report, a phase 1 or phase 2 environmental report, which basically means that they had geologists come, survey the land to see if it's contaminated or not. For those of you guys who are unaware, in commercial real estate, you're going to need to go and get a loan. The banks are going to ask for the soil report. and they want to make sure the condition of the land is clean. That's why we ask this question. We always ask them, do you have a copy of that report? They said, yeah, we do. And it said that it's clean. Great. Can you give me a copy of that report? When was it done? Okay, who was it done by? You want to ask those. If they say, no, we don't, then you kind of end it at that. If they say, yes, they do, right? Then you ask them, what was the conclusion of these reports? Do you have any structural issues? Do you have any found? You want to ask them if it's contaminated or not, based on that question. Okay, so those are great detail-oriented questions to ask the owner about the condition of the property, the expenses, a little more detail-oriented stuff that can further along the line of questioning in your dialogue with this owner. We just ended with detailed-oriented questions, and we're jumping into finance-oriented questions, deal terms, all right? What do you ask an owner towards the end of the call to summarize it? What do you ask them? You ask them rhetorical yes or no questions, and to understand their psychology. So here's a great question to ask. Hey, John, property owner, do you currently owe anything on your site? Meaning, do you have a mortgage? Yes or no, John? He says, yes. You ask them, how much do you owe, with what bank, at what interest rate, and what are your terms on that note? Okay? 2, if they say, no, I don't owe anything, I own it free and clear, or I have very little debt, which is amazing, right? Then you want to immediately ask them, hey, John, tell me, that's great. Are you willing to consider carrying back a note? Are you willing to seller finance? Are you willing to become my bank? Or how about you become my bank, John? How does that sound to you? Okay? If they say yes, I might consider it, or I never thought about it, which is probably most of the answers, then you imply, okay, great. What kind of terms would you accept? What kind of interest rate would you go for? How long would you accept? You want to ask them first. If they say, I don't know, then you should know what terms you or the buyer or your group would want to offer. And you start, I'm at a point where obviously I go into the contract to buy it. So when I prospect or I negotiate, I'm already asking them, like, what do you want? They say, I don't know. I tell them what I want. And then I start trying to negotiate. So in that case, I would be like, listen, would you do 90% financing? Would you do 100% financing? Okay? What would you do? I'd consider 80%. Great, okay. Would you do 4% interest? Interest only? No, maybe 5. Great, okay. And would you do 10-year term? Would you do a 20-year term? Would you do a 5-year term? What kind of length of term do you want? I consider maybe a 7 to 10-year term. Great. What did I just do? I asked them the same questions the initial opener would, but the difference between that person and me being the closer, right, is that I negotiated. And I got actual figures, digits listed for myself so that I can actually take it to the next step, which we're going to talk about towards the end, which is writing them a formal offer, letter of intent, or a purchase contract. So that's questions about financing. Okay? Another question you want to ask is, John, let me ask you, in theory, and this could go whether they gave you a number in the beginning that they want to sell at or not. You can ask them, John, assuming we come to terms on the price, okay, outside of price, what would you do with the money at the end of the deal? Are you going to cash out, or are you going to pay capital gains and go into, cash out and pay the capital gains? Or are you going to go do a 1031 tax-deferred exchange and defer your taxes and go find another asset? Very, very important question. Why? Because when you ask that question, you're going to learn the owner's psychology of urgency. Are they in desperate need to sell? They want the money. They want to cash out, pay the 25% state tax, federal tax. Or are they willing to relax on time and go the long haul? Because they're going to need time, and we're going to talk about that, to find an exchange to move their money into. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what a 1031 tax-deferred exchange is, the IRS gives an owner, a property owner, the right to exchange their asset to a like-owned property, the proceeds, whatever you earn, into a new property or multiple properties, and thus deferring, meaning delaying paying any income tax that's produced on your gains, your profits. So for example, in numbers, if I made $1 million selling a deal, okay, I would have to normally pay 25-30% taxes, called capital gains, $300,000 kaput, and I would have been left with 700, and that was the end of it. That's one strategy. Or a lot of people, and this is what most people do, is they'll take their million, they won't pay any taxes right now, and they'll move their million into another building or multiple buildings, thus never paying the tax right now, and now buying another piece of real estate, a better piece of real estate, a more substantial piece of real estate, so they can increase their income and their total net worth and portfolio. Now you might ask yourself, well, you say deferred, does that mean that they're eventually going to have to pay taxes? Yes, they are. But most of these guys out there, what they just do is they keep perpetuating it. They then sell those assets, and then they move those funds to the next up leg, what we call the next series of assets. And they just keep doing it forever and ever and ever. Guess what? You never pay taxes. That's one strategy. Okay? So you want to ask that question. If they say, I would prefer to do the 1031 tax deferred exchange, then you want to ask them, have you, great, perfect, have you identified the property or properties you want to exchange into? Okay? Now what does that mean? The IRS lets you do this, but they give you a timeline. From the moment you close on your deal between me and that seller has 45 days to identify, right? To point out what property he's going to buy so they can alleviate or defer those taxes. And then he has a total of 180 days, 6 months from the moment you close to actually close on those deals. If you don't fulfill those two criteria, guess what? Your 1031 exchange is out the window. Okay? So if they say, no, I haven't found it, you can also ask them, tell me, John, are you in a rush to actually sell this asset? Are you in financial need? Do you need the money? This is, again, a psychological question to evaluate where they are financially, where they are with the deal. That's how it's going to help you approach that deal to try to buy it. If they say, yes, I'm in a rush. Okay, I'm curious. Oh, sorry, no. If they're in a rush to do the deal, yet they said they want to do an exchange. So all you have to say is, in that case, is, okay, I'm just curious, John, how do you plan on us closing so quickly, but you haven't identified a property? And then I'll tell them what I just told you, which is you are aware you get 45 days, you got to identify a building. And then you got 6 months to close, which is okay, but you're going to go under crunch time. So isn't it make better sense for you to perhaps do a longer term escrow, which is what we're looking for? And it's a win-win. You get time to find the next property you want to invest in, and we get time in escrow to maybe go do entitlements. Or maybe, for some of us out there, we go and syndicate our deals. We find our partners to go and buy that piece of real estate with. It buys us time. Okay? So it's a great win-win scenario. People don't teach this strategy. Okay? Everybody's about cash buyer, desperate seller, in need, disaster situation. Our mentality here at MTIP is different. Our strategy when we're coming to buy a building, we want as much time possible in escrow so that we can decide whatever the fuck it is that we want to do. We want to close on it quickly. We want to build on it. I want to syndicate it. I'll want to wholesale it. If you have the luxury of time, you can choose. But guess what? If someone's in an urgent need to close, you don't have that luxury. Your options shrink. You have to close. If you're trying to wholesale a deal, you're going to be up against the clock. Okay? Or if you're trying to wholesale and you don't have a lot of liquidity, which a lot of you guys have this problem, right? You're trying to buy a deal, double escrow it, sell it to someone else. If you don't have the cash to close, or if you're trying to wholesale the contract without closing, assigning the deal, you don't have a lot of time to negotiate the assignment. In residential real estate, I hear from friends, and again, I don't do this, but they tell me the second they tie up a building, they end up flipping it within a few days, which is amazing. And I will say, it does happen in commercial or non-residential, but it's less likely. most investors that are going to buy a piece of commercial real estate, and again, I would say this is probably anything except multifamily, they're going to want to do some thorough due diligence. They want to know the expenses, the income, the problems. They're going to look at, and it's going to take some time. And if you don't have enough cushion built into your existing contract, you're never going to be able to flip that kind of type of property, okay? And that's a critical thing a lot of people don't discuss. So, with that being said, so if someone says, I'm not in a rush, Mike, you called me out of the blue, I'm willing to do a longer term escrow, maybe something like 6 months, 9 months, a year term, maybe 2 years. Hell, I'll ask for as much time as I possibly can. And what is another reason why I would want to do that as a buyer? If I get an owner under contract, ladies and gentlemen, I have equitable rights over their property, which means they can't sell their property to anybody else. I own the right to sell it, and only I can sell it for that duration of time. That's what wholesaling is in assignments, in a nutshell. So your whole goal is get the contract. Once you get that contract, guess who becomes kingpin? You. Okay? So you're mining for not to get the contracts just signed, which is one strategy. You want to get the cleanest contracts, which means that you have the most advantage. You have the most time. You have the least deposit. The terms are in your favor, which we're going to talk about. So you want to frame it, right? The owner needs to understand that you're not a scumbag. And you got to frame it in a way where it makes sense for them. Hey, John, it doesn't sound like you're in a rush to sell. Are you in a rush? No, not at all. Okay, great. Would you consider a longer term escrow? What does that mean, Mike? I don't know, 6 months, a year. Nonchalantly. But I geared him up to that question. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Why would you need so much time, Mike? Well, look, I'm going to be honest with you. We're developers. You can even tell them, we're syndicators. Okay, which is really what we do. You want to be honest with them. Listen, I don't know what we're going to do. I got to bring my engineering team, my architectural team, my construction team, everybody under my staff, under my umbrella, to figure out how we can create an added value. Somewhere there's some upside for us. And this really takes place on properties that are not income producing or income deficient producing. What I call, there's an issue with the property. It's a vacant lot. It's a half vacant building. It's a decrepit older building. These owners, they might own a lot of real estate. They might own just this piece of real estate. Depending on the circumstance, you could really negotiate amazing terms with these owners and get them to feel like it's a win-win scenario. That's your objective. You don't want to antagonize them. You don't want to come off as being a dick. You want to structure the deal in a way where everybody's happy, and that's how you close it on the best note, and you do the right type of real estate transaction. Okay? So, outside of price, right? You want to talk about, while you have the guy on the phone, tell me, John, what kind of escrow terms would you want, or contract terms? Like, how much would you want for down payment deposit, earnest deposit? Do you mind if I give you the deposit after I waive what's called my buyer contingencies? Something I do all the time. A lot of people say, how do you get these contracts, these big contracts, without putting $1 into contract, into the real estate? This is what I say. I say, listen, you're going to give me 90 days, 2 months, 2 weeks to evaluate it, right? Which basically means we have a handshake agreement, but I haven't really committed as the buyer until I've said, John, your building's good to go. I'm willing to waive my contingencies and proceed. So I normally ask the owner, right, and this helps me stay liquid and not tie up my money. I say, listen, John, the second we go hard, meaning I have waived my contingencies, I'm going to send that money to your attorney or to the escrow agent. I'm going to deposit, and I'm going to irrevocably release that money to you, John, so that you have an assurance. You have that money gifted to you. In the event that I want to cancel thereafter, you have some confidence. Okay? So that's something a lot of people don't do. People expect it. You want to ask for it. You want to ask how much it is. It should normally be between 1% to 2% is what you're looking for earnest deposit. max 5, max 10, depending on how aggressive the situation is. The other thing you want to ask for is the buyer due diligence period, right? As a buyer, you want to ask for the most amount of time, and you want to start off with a long time, 6 months, 1 year, 90 days, 60 days, and you want to work your way backwards to the bottom of the pot there. If you're a seller, okay, which we're going to talk about another day, but just throw it out there. If you're trying to sell or dispose of an asset, you want to consolidate that due diligence period to the shortest span of time. So buyer, long time. If you're selling, short time, aggressive, due diligence. Then you want to ask for the close of escrow. How many days after you decided that you want to proceed do you need to close on a deal? We come in cash on all of our offers, okay? We come in cash. No matter how big the deal, how small, we'll come in cash. I'll never write a loan on any deal, okay? Because it'll dissuade owners from even looking at you if they hear that you have to go get a loan. So cash, and then I'll say, listen, I have no problem closing, but if you're looking for an exchange and you need time, then why don't you give me 12 months to close, 9 months to close, and in between that time, I, as the buyer, am going to give you an option as the seller to close sooner if you find you're in exchange, you're in next exchange. That way, it's again a win-win scenario. I get more time than I probably would have gotten normally in a normal deal, and the owner doesn't feel threatened because they have this option exercise that says, okay, even though there's a 12-month closing period, I have it in the contract that says I, as the owner, can close within 60 days after the buyer waives its contingencies. Final statement, closing of our script, okay? You've asked the owner, you managed to ask, you kept them long enough on the phone to ask them all these critical questions, okay, that we have come up with that are really, really great stuff for commercial property owners to be asked, okay? It's stuff that a buyer would want to see, it's stuff a bank would want to see, and it will help you in your next steps, which is the conclusion of this conversation, which is you want to write them an offer. You want to write them a formal, handwritten, executed by a buyer offer to pitch them with. So you're going to take the summary of all of your notes, all of the answers they gave you. In addition to that, your personal notes from the psychology of what you understood. We in our company, we like to record our calls so that we can listen back, go back at it and listen to it as many times as we need in order to A, improve our pitch, our tone, our script, how we said things. That's how we role play with ourselves. A lot of you guys work in boiler rooms, good for you. Those of you guys work stealth alone. It's a great way to practice with yourself. You can hear yourself once, change your tonality, change the wording, okay? What you don't want to do is end up thinking about what you need to say. So memorizing your script is so important, guys. And it's a never-ending tweak. This script is 5.0. The reason it's called 5.0 is because the first version worked until it didn't. Or someone thought of something better, and then we made it the second version. Then the third version, and so forth. So this is a never-evolving script. Your script should be the same way. In conclusion, so after you ask all your questions, you can ask some closing and rhetorical questions, right? One example is, do you manage the property yourself, or do you have a professional property management company? Are you currently working with a broker? Do you have representation? Do you have an attorney or not? Is the property listed on the market or not? Is it off market? Because that's all we focus on. We don't want eyes on our deal. Are you the only owner, or do you have partners? If so, how many? Who are they? And who's the decision maker? What's the split, the equity stake? Do you happen to know any of the other adjacent owners? Okay, there's two prongs to that. One, potentially you can say you're trying to get plotted. You're trying to expand the deal. And maybe that could become a contingency. Say, listen, we want to buy yours on the basis that we can buy your neighbor. If they say, no, I don't, even better. Because odds are, if you're trying to wholesale a deal in commercial real estate, the first place you want to look for a buyer is the guy next door. This way, that way, that way. Just go around and pitch it, okay? What can you tell me about your neighbors? Another great question to ask them. Do you think that your neighbors would consider to sell as well? If so, what do you think they want for it? How long have you known them for? Great questions, okay? And then finally, you want to thank them, okay? You actually want to thank them most of the time throughout it. You want to be courteous, you want to be respectful, but you also want to be direct and to the point. Don't go on too many tangents that aren't related to your questions. Don't talk about football. Don't talk about what happened to their ex-wife. Don't talk about their kids and their life aspirations. People say, oh, that's rapport building. Bullshit. What's rapport building is talking about any one of these questions in a sophisticated, guiding them to answer you and build rapport in the context of the questions you ask is rapport building. It's a form of it, okay? The reason I say this is because you don't want to waste your time when you're prospecting. The goal is to talk to as many people as you can and get through this script thoroughly as many times as you can in a given sit, in a given period that you're actually trying to prospect. You have a list of 100, 200, 300 people you're trying to call, right? By the time you get someone on the phone, engaged, interested, you want to cipher through this script in the most efficient way. That doesn't mean blast through it. That doesn't mean be overzealous and skip questions. That means be efficient, okay? All in all, this script should probably take someone 15 minutes tops to go through if you do it efficiently. Now, mind you, I have done this script in 1 hour. I've accentuated phone calls. I've done the tangent conversations. You don't want to do it because it tires you and your energy drops. And energy is key when you're prospecting. You want to maintain a high energy. You want to stand right. The form, it all impacts your voice. And then it projects on the telephone in particular, even when you're face to face with someone. So the next question I would ask, okay, is, or statement is, listen, great. Thank you, John, for answering all my questions. You're a gentleman. I appreciate your time. So here's what's going to happen next. This is what we call a call to action. I am leading the conversation by guiding the prospect to tell him what's going to happen next after this phone call. I'm going to take all this information, John, and I'm going to go back to my client or to my partner and their team. And we're going to carefully underwrite your deal. And with your permission, John, I'm going to then send you a formal, handwritten, written purchase offer, or purchase contract, or letter of intent at the best possible fair market value in the next couple days or on Tuesday of next week. You want to identify a time range, okay? Does that sound good to you? Yes or no? What is your email address and your best means of contact? Great. So that we can send out that offer. How much time do you think you need once you receive that offer to consider it and so we can have our next conversation? When can I schedule our next dialogue? John, I want to make sure we're on top of this together. We spent the last, and you want to repeat it to them. You want to tell them, if you're looking at a clock when you're talking on your cell phone, you want to look at the clock and say, listen, I just spent the last 7 minutes with you. I spent the last 15. I spent the last 45 minutes together on the phone, and I want to make sure it doesn't go to waste, all right? You sound like a viable seller. We are definitely an interested and ready and willing buyer. Let's make sure that we don't drop the ball together. How does next Wednesday at 3 p.m. sound to schedule our next call? You almost want to force it on them, okay? People, they need to be guided. Kind of like what's happening right now between you and me. I am sharing information in an informative, commanding way, and you're receiving it. If this wasn't here, you wouldn't know what to do, right? You'd be lost. So direction is key, especially when you're closing the statement. Now, what we call the shawarma by my Iraqi friend here, the beef, the juice. Okay? You in summary say, thank you, John. Expect to see my offer, my email, the letter in the mail on behalf of our buyer in your inbox in the next coming days or by Wednesday. Please make sure you receive it and you confirm that you received it when you get it. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and you're welcome to call me or email me at any time, or feel free to assemble those things and bring it to our attention on our next call, whether it's with me as the opener or the next person down the line, which is the closer, the buyer, whatever you want to call it. Thank you so much again. Have a great day. Goodbye. And just like that, you completed the MTIP script 5.0 and you've covered all the pertinent questions that we do on a daily basis when our team of prospectors go out there and solicit property owners. Okay, guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed everything I shared. I'm going to offer our script. If you're interested in getting this copy of this script, and I'm going to show it to you on the big screen, okay? We're going to share this script just like this, broken down for you. Again, it took us 6 weeks to come up with this script, okay, with all these pertinent questions that we went over for you guys to enjoy, all right? This is completely free. We also have rebuttals here at your disposal that you guys can review. Okay, the list of all the possible rebuttals that we could have come up with as a starting point, so you guys don't walk into prospecting blind. For those of you guys who didn't know, I'm telling you again, we have a university that covers all of this and so much more. Okay, we give hands-on, one-on-one training, just like I'm doing right now. I take an hour or so a week to bring you guys this invaluable content that most folks won't talk about, or they'll try to sell you. I'm not interested in selling you shit, okay? Yes, I have a university. Yes, we charge money for it, but it's not for the reasons you think. I'm looking to recruit highly hungry, qualified tigers out there that want to excel in my business, which is commercial real estate. And so we built this university both to train and educate you, but really for us, it's about ciphering through who's really a contender and who's not. I get solicited every day. Mike, I'd love to join your team. Mike, can I come work for you? And I deny people because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, like invest in learning this script, devoting yourself to it, practicing it, you got to make 4,000 phone calls and you got to have 100 of repetitive conversations like this until you become what I consider qualified to contend in this business. It's practice. And if I can't see you give that blood, I have no interest, in engaging you. So step one, if you are interested in getting to commercial real estate, head to MTIPU University, okay? MTIP University is your starting grounds. Let me pull it up for everyone. Oh, not working. Wish it was working, not working. MTIP University is our starting ground for all of you guys out there that want to get ahead in the business, okay? For some reason, my mouse doesn't seem to be working. We're having a wardrobe malfunction here on the computer. Oh, we have a touch screen here. Okay, here we go. Let me pull it up. Look, guys, this is what the MTIP University homepage looks like. It's mtipu.com. Head to it. Watch this amazing video that I made specially for you so you guys can understand the psychology of why we built it. You can look through the list of all the courses that we cover. There's 40 different topics and we keep adding to it, all right? It's an amazing, amazing resource. From there, you can learn more about the cost benefits. Okay, let me tell you guys, if you're a high school student that's just about to graduate and it's heading to college, you're going to pay 20, 30, 40 grand for a year's worth of information, okay? And then at the end of it, after 4 years of that shit, you're going to end up being like, what am I supposed to do? Where do I find a job? And you're probably going to get an entry-level job of $40,000, maybe $50,000 starting salary if you're lucky enough to get hired. And it probably won't be in the industry that's associated to your major, most likely, because you're fending to survive. This is a $1,500 investment, guys. Okay? It's peanuts. And for those of you who can't afford it, I broke it down into installments. It's to get you guys going, and it's going to really teach you guys not just those of you guys starting, but also those of you guys already ahead of the curve. You guys, another example could be, you could be someone that's making a couple $100,000 a year right now. You're in an unrelated business. Maybe you're a realtor in residential real estate and you're looking to get the leg up, to get to the next level. How do I make $500,000? How do I make $1 million? How do I make millions of dollars in real estate? I can teach you. If you follow our systems, and we have amazing systems, amazing platforms that are proven, that justify, that work, you will succeed. So we're offering this to all of you guys out there, first comers, people that are progressed, and really people that also want to brush up on their skills in the business. Hop on to MTIPU, take a look. If you have any questions, we have at the bottom of the page a frequently asked questions segment, and it's not typed, it's great, it's me talking to you guys, right? There's videos on each one of these questions. So take the time, review it. A lot of your frequently asked questions, you guys reach out to me, I end up sending you guys here. So everything you need is there for you, okay? I never had any of these opportunities when I was starting out in the business. No one taught me, nobody cared, nobody wanted to teach me, okay? I had to go figure it out on my own. This is a tremendous amount of knowledge and information that you could take advantage of, and I can guarantee you, if you do take advantage of it, just like this script, just like what I covered today, and I cover every week, if you actually benefit from it, it will make you money. I hope it does. I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say today. I look forward to seeing you guys next Friday, same time, same channel, same bat channel. Peace out. Have a great weekend. I'm Mike Maccabi. Much love.